It's time to check your money with your friendly neighborhood advisor, Mike Jennings. Mike Jennings, the wealth advisor with Brackens Financial Solutions Network, LLC, and the registered representative of LPL Financial, member SIPC. What's going on, Mike? Well, I already know what's going on. Mike is, of course, a new papa. And Mike, how is that going for you so far, so far, so far?
I can tell you what's not going on. You probably guessed from the bags under my eyes that ain't much sleeping at night going on. So, but I mean, we're enjoying every moment. This kid, I tell you, he's beautiful, and I'm a little bit biased, but he's just gorgeous, like, and so much personality. It's funny, like watching his sort of characteristics grow like every day. It's definitely something. So we are enjoying parenthood. Very tired, but enjoying it. Do you remember these days? These days, George?
Yes. And of course being a parent of four, right? And every
Ah,
kid being, you can't even imagine that, right? The first my firstborn, our son, uh didn't sleep, so that was that. But then our daughter was the blessing. She was the gift because this one, she was out. She slept so well. We would like check on it, like, is she all right? Is she, because and then the other two, everyone's different. But no, I do remember those days and the joys, especially having, your kid on your chest and just
mhm.
that are the unforget those are the unforgettable moments, and they're precious
Absolutely.
moments. They're precious.
Absolutely.
They're precious moments. So
You have any?
congratulations to you again, and Aaliyah, on
Oh,
uh,
thank you. Thank you.
your bundle of joy. And I don't know when you're going to sleep again, but I think I was suggesting maybe some power naps might help.
Maybe we'll see. We'll see. I'll try to get to that. Let's see how that works out. But this week, as far as the show, George, I wanted to circle back on a growing crisis issue that we spoke about before surrounding
Mm-hmm.
retirement
Mm-hmm.
in our country. Uh, we've spoken at length on retirement and how it fits into one's financial plan, but
Mm-hmm.
I met with some people recently, some potential clients, and they came to me specifically to address their retirement savings or lack thereof. And this is a prevalent problem that we are seeing more and more across America. So I definitely wanted to talk about that one today. And since we are ending Black History Month, or just in this Black History Month, I also want to highlight how this issue is affecting our community specifically. So first, let's lay out the big picture and sort of look at some data from some of the headlines and everything, right? There's an institution called the Employee Benefit Research Institute, or EBRI, which conducts what's called the Retirement Confidence Survey every year. And
Mm-hmm.
they've actually been doing this for 35 years, so it's the longest running survey of its kind in the country. Um, and the most recent one that they did was released in April 2025. So actually, their 2026 one should be coming up pretty soon. But back in 2025, they surveyed nearly 2,800 Americans and found that about two-thirds of workers, 67%, say that they're confident that they'll have enough to live comfortably in retirement. Um,
Two
but current
thirds.
two-thirds, 67%, two-thirds say that they are comfortable, or that they're confident that they'll live comfortably in retirement. And then also current retirees who were also on the same page, actually a little bit more, 78% expressing confidence. So hearing that doesn't sound like much of an issue, right?
Right.
But exactly, but when you look right beneath that surface, behind those confidence numbers, the actual savings picture tells a very different story. So, according to the Federal Reserve, the most recent report on economic well-being in the U.S. households released in May 2025, about 65% of Americans either believe their retirement savings are off track or that they're not even sure. So, almost the same number. Um, just let that land, let that sit for a minute, right? So
Yeah.
nearly two-thirds, 2 in 3 Americans feel unprepared even as they tell other survey takers that they're confident. And that's a real disconnect.
Right. I was going to say that's kind of opposing each other.
I seen this.
Contradictory. Yes.
I I seen this in person, like literally talking to a couple people recently, where before they came to see me, they indicated on the little questionnaire, confident or comfortable in retirement, low concern, and then we really get into the numbers and see that they really haven't saved much. So where are they expecting to, be able to retire comfortably, right? So that disconnect is there, and I've seen it personally. So going back to the National Institute of Retirement Security, they put some hard numbers on this gap that we're seeing, right? So their research found that collective retirement savings deficit for American working households between ages 25 and 64 sits somewhere between 6.8 and 14 trillion dollars, trillion with a T, right? So, and get this, like when you include all households, not just the ones that actually have retirement accounts, the median retirement savings balance for working age Americans is just $3,000. $3,000, right? So
For per month, or that's what they got.
that's their median savings balance. That's it. So $12,000 to fund what could be 20 or 30-year retirement. And that's for households nearing retirement age. So that 3,000 is the median, and then as they get closer, a little bit older towards retirement, it climbs the median gets closer to 12,000. So 12,000 to live on in a 20 or 30-year retirement makes zero sense.
No. And
Also
that was a pun intended, right? Makes 0 sense because there is 0 cents that's
I'm too tired to be
available.
making puns, so if that was, I'll give you the credit for that, and it'll just be a little indirect one. So Bankrate 2025 retirement save. A lot of people do a lot of savings surveys because this is clearly an issue that people are focused on. They found that again, 3 to 5 Americans, workers say that their retirement savings are behind where they should be. So literally everybody is saying the same thing. So why is this happening? A few reasons. So that a problem with access, which is a big problem. So I think 79% of full-time workers in the lower wage bracket lack access to any employer-sponsored retirement plan at all. So they don't even have that option at work if they wanted a easy way to just say, hey, take this amount out of my pay stub and I'll put it towards something. Don't even have to worry about it. Don't even see it unless I look at my pay stub. But I know that I'm building and I'm saving and it's there. Social Security, which we've talked about at length, it's becoming less and less of a safety net. And it's really a lifeline for a lot of people. Again, going back to EBRI, their survey found that 94% of current retirees, report Social Security as a source of retirement income. So people that are retired right now, this is definitely a resource that they're using. Um, but a critical detail is that nearly twice as many retirees say Social Security is a major source of income rather than, just what current workers expect it to be. That's sort of like a little supplemental, which is what it was
Right.
always supposed to be, rather than a major source. But again, that's the situation that we're in, and that lifeline is very clearly under threat. Going back to Bankrate survey, 80% of retired adults are concerned about receiving their promised Social Security benefits. And again, that's something that we talked about. So everything that we're seeing, all these stats and stuff that I'm throwing at you, it really just pounding home the message that whatever people believed about retirement and how the whole system works, how the whole process works, very clearly is a different reality from what is actually needed and what's actually going on. So everything that I'm listing here, everything that I'm saying, it all goes to show that that is what the picture is, right? Not to mention there's also people being forced out of work before they're ready, right? So, again, EBRI data, 58% of current retirees retired earlier than they planned. So now you got to consider not just, if you retire at 60, 65. based on health and everything. You're looking at a 20 or 30-year retirement. Now, if you retire early, now you have an even longer retirement period. And how are you going to fund that, right? If you weren't even prepared for the quote unquote normal retirement, are you
Right.
going to be prepared for an extended retirement? Again, so now all of that, all of those, again, what I just cited, those represent the average American experience. But like I said, we know that in this country, averages hide a lot, because when the system is broken, it breaks unevenly, right? And that research is very clear about who is absorbing most of the damage, and that's the EBRI data. And what I'm talking about is our community, that is Black Americans. So with the EBRI survey, what they do every year, and I have to go back and look at how long they've been doing this.
Mm-hmm.
But what they've been doing is taking the entire sample of, average Americans, but they also oversample a specific community or specific demographic. So I think last year they did an oversample on military families to see more of the impact there. I think the year before that they did an oversample on family caregivers. So that was another one. But for this year, or I guess last year, what they did is they focus specifically on Black Americans and their confidence in retirement. Out of that whole was it 2,800 people that they surveyed, they did 700 of them, which were non-Hispanic, Black, or African American respondents. 520 were current workers, and 481 were current retirees. And they did that specifically so they could look at a closer data-driven look at a unique retirement challenges facing our community. What they found is that the wealth gap is very clearly real, and it persists even as income rises for the average American experience. Black Americans are more likely to have lower income and fewer assets than their non-Black counterparts, even in the same, comparable fields of work or careers. And the gap doesn't disappear when the incomes go up, right? So among people earning 75,000 or more per year, 63% of non-Black Americans have savings of 100,000 or more. Uh, Black Americans at that same income level, that number drops to just 33%. So you got non-Black Americans having $100,000 saved, and then you have Black Americans only 33%. So less than half of the same people in that same income bracket have nowhere near that amount saved. So you can be even a higher income Black earner and still have half the savings stockpiled for a
So
higher income.
so what is the number? I know you had some percentage, but what's the average number? What's the dollar amount of average savings? Do
Oh,
we
so
know that?
100,000. So it's people, the income range is 75,000 or more per year.
Okay.
And 63% of non-Black people, non-Black Americans have savings of 100,000 or more. And then for Black Americans, it's just 33% of those people versus the
Okay.
63.
Okay.
Make
Gotcha.
sense?
Yeah.
Um, the researchers at EBRI, they point to generational wealth gaps as a key factor. And again, we've talked about generational wealth
A
at
theme
length.
here
Very much a theme here. And so this is just another set of resources and things to show that, we're not just talking about it. It's something that's needed, and it's something that, it's not, oh, what's my legacy going to be later on in life and things like that. No, this is what's affecting our community now because of not having these things in the past, right? The present time is just a cumulative of everything that's happened in the past. So everything here. So the research presented at the Federal Reserve Bank back in 2024 found that Black and Hispanic workers with access to 401k or 403b plans contribute approximately 40% less than white workers. So even seeing when people have access to these things and savings accounts at their employer, we see for some reason that there's a disconnect with non-white Americans and their ability to save. So again, going back to history and everything, obviously there was a time where a lot of these resources we didn't have access to.
Right.
And that's not the case per se now, but what we have a lack of is the knowledge. All of those, that again, that generational wealth. It's not just assets, it's knowledge, right? We didn't have our parents to say, "Oh, you should put money into your 401k." Well, my mom did because she had a 403b, but we had a lot of people in my age group and the generations before me who had no idea about having to save for a 401k or
Right.
403b. Um, it's a lot more info here, but I think everything that I'm saying is really driving the point home. In every facet of retirement that we're looking at, there's a clear disparity between Black Americans and non-Black Americans who are currently working and who are retirees. So again, I guess something important is that data also shows that lower income Black Americans were more likely to feel confident about retirement than lower income non-Black Americans in the same bracket. So now we're coming right back to that point at the beginning. It's that same disconnect, this confidence. And it's like, where's the confidence coming from? And the answer is it's the confidence is that lack of understanding of what retirement truly is. It's it's it it's not it's just a simple, oh hey, we'll figure it out when we get there. No, this is something you have to be building up towards now, right?
Right.
I mean, George, you I guess you're not retired, but you are someone close to that, close to
I'm
that.
absolutely at retirement age, is what you're trying to say.
Why was I going to say all that? I was like, that's but imagine if you waited until a few years ago to start thinking about retirement. Like, where would you be now? You probably wouldn't be able to, do a lot of the things that you're currently able to do.
Right.
Um, so what do you think? What do you think about that disconnect? Not even knowing that not even is not just Black Americans, but also Americans at large with this confidence of retirement, and then really looking at the numbers and seeing that there's really no reason why they should be confident.
Right. I mean, I think it's not facing the realities, right? It's what you want to think
Mhm.
is what's happening until you get down and actually look at the numbers, right? Which is what this program has been all about, is facing the numbers and looking at the numbers and having a plan, which is what Brackens has been talking about, and you and Vicki and you have been talking about this whole time. The other thing that I think is important that we talk about is the uh, wealth transfer. What's
Mhm.
that? What do we call that? Legacy passing on to generations.
Wealth transfer, yep.
Yes,
The
yes, right.
planning.
And so starting over, it always starting from zero, and that's another thing that Vicky's been talking about: zero,
Yep.
no more.
No
And
more.
so that's though to me, those are the reasons why there's that disconnect. I'm particularly talking about Black communities, right?
Yeah.
And I think overall, for Americans in general, that confidence versus that reality is because either the poor plan, there wasn't enough planning, or the reality is that the reality is sinking in. And so, while I might be confident for real, there might be some other factors that have not been considered along the way. So
Yeah.
it makes sense to me. Is
Well, I can.
a long way to say, while I'm not surprised that there's a gap or disconnect between the confidence and the reality. I'm not surprised at all.
Mhm. Well, I can wrap this up with a little bit of optimism, little silver lining here. So, the EBRI researchers, the one that did the survey, they suggest that Black Americans are actually more likely to look to their employers for retirement planning support and guidance, and also other financial institutions. So they're more likely to want help with life insurance needs, estate planning, and strategies for balancing debt reduction, long-term savings, and everything like that, which is great. Which is great because it's always just having you have conversations throughout your day and a bunch of different context and content and everything. But the theme is that no matter what you're facing, the hardest step, the biggest step is always the first step, and that's asking for help. So that means when it comes to this, employers, financial institutions, financial advisors, financial planners like Vicky and I, policymakers, we have to have concrete, actionable paths forward so that when people do take that step in asking our help, there's a path set for them, and if they choose to take them. So for the people out there listening, if you need an accessible option, your friendly neighborhood advisor is right here for you. So you can give me a call at 315-748-5540. Again, that's 315-748-5540. Or you can give me a quick send me a quick email at michael.jennings@brackensfsn.com.
Mike Jennings is a wealth advisor with Brackens Financial Solutions Network, LLC, and a registered representative of LPL Financial member SIPC. He is your friendly neighborhood advisor.